earnings that you mentioned might be tilting the movement. Some are saying that we already had quite a nice rally last week, but you said to Business World that we need to be watching out for earnings. Which ones do you mean by that? Which ones are you most excited about and most worried about as well?
Well, for one, we were keeping an eye out on the power companies because they're pre-pandemic, they were saying that there was supposed to be a supply shortage, and again, this one was during the summer season, especially. This one was being raised to yellow alert. This didn't manifest, obviously, because all the circumstances, but it could because of, again, there's going to be a reopening of economy, election season. Businesses want to make up for all the lost time, so we want to keep an eye out on that. We've seen that the West have spiked, oil as well. Uh, so that's what we want to look out for. Probably there might be hints when the third quarter comes out, and especially with the analyst briefing, I'm sure they're going to be asking the management of these companies as to what they think is going to be the assumptions moving forward. So they're probably going to be making their bets. Second, of course, is going to be the consumer companies. Now, of course, again, keeping in line with the same theme is that they're going to be the ones who are going to be benefiting from all the campaign spending. But one is how will the dynamics come to play given that it's a different landscape? Is it going to be more driven by e-commerce? How are they going to be doing the campaigning? And second, again, will inflation also affect it because we're still elevated at around 5%, not the 2% that we are used to.
Okay. Luis, we hit 7,300 last week. Can you say that markets have already priced in the fact that, in the third quarter, we reverted to ECQ and this might have severely impacted the earnings already? And we're not looking back at those earnings anymore and looking just forward into, the reopening, the alert level 2 imminent maybe, and also consumer spending in the fourth quarter.
Yes, well, everyone is trying to be more forward-looking, but I think one is when the third quarter comes out, it's at least in line with what everyone expected, even if maybe if some underperformed a bit. I think that's acceptable because again, so many things happened during the third quarter where they had to tighten the restrictions, inflation spiked suddenly, oil as well. So if the third quarter is acceptable, and I guess management gives guidelines or guidance as to what's going to happen for the next 6 to 12 months, then probably I think we're still going to be seeing a lot of buying and bargain hunting between now and when earnings come out, and especially with the third quarter GDP. So right now I think they're going to be positioning, rebalancing as to what they think is going to be the performance of 2022 with regard to each specific sector.
How worried are you about the rise in oil prices? It's now being a topic that at least even cutting the excise taxes in the election campaigns, and it's also very sensitive, not just in the domestic markets, but of course in offshore markets.
At least for as far as the Philippines is concerned, oil, we import 99% of our oil requirements. If you look at inflation, 10% is tied to transportation, but 50% is indirectly tied to oil, right? With businesses being affected. So yes, I think there is some effect. Now, in years past, we've seen oil rise to well above 100. So we're not looking at that yet. So this one is still within manageable territory. But I would like to see it normalize in the coming months. 80, we've seen it, cross 80 and above prior to that. But when it reaches, I think close to 100, that's when I think it becomes much more of a concern.
Okay, so right now, not really concerning. How does this affect your outlook on the airline industry specifically, which is very very oil sensitive and of course has been marred with difficulty even before that whole oil story. You've also got PAL reporting at least to the U.S. bankruptcy court their 1.5 billion peso loss on September. Tell us, is this a time to be entering if you do say that the markets are reopening, we might be having travels back here, we might be having more foot traffic in airports, or is this oil story going to be making that outlook gloomier?
Well, again, oil. You think about it, and oil accounts for 60 to 65% the cost of an airline. So bulk of what you're paying for a ticket is mainly to cover for the cost of cost of fuel. Now, I mean, if you look at it, oil used to be trading at 65 to 70. Now it's around 85. So that's around 50%. So perhaps if with what's happening in the airline industry, assuming that ticket prices go up 15%, I think it's still acceptable given that
Okay.
people haven't been traveling, whether it's for business or leisure. So there's a lot of pent up demand. So this is something I think that consumers can still absorb, especially in the short term. Even like how much people have been holding back from spending on traveling.